All right, well, let's get started here so we can get things moving. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, which I see a few new names and faces up there, this is the monthly New Yorkers for Mental Health Alternatives slash New York's Psilocybin Action Committee meeting. And we are a group who has gathered members from across the state in order to educate the public and our lawmakers about why it is important that we create a safe, accessible system for psilocybin across New York State. And I see people online right now ranging from Long Island all the way up to Taylor. You're close to Utica, Rochester, right?
Yep, Rochester, New York.
Nice. So we're almost all the way to Buffalo. And Corinne, we are physically in Troy. Oh, wait. Will, are you in Buffalo?
Yeah, Pat represents, for everyone aware, I'm the legislative director for ASM Pat Burke, who I'll probably have a moment to talk about this in a bit, but yeah, we represent South Buffalo, Orchard Park, Lackawanna, if anyone's familiar with that area. So yeah, we got the whole stretch today. So
all right. So that's who we are, and I have a couple announcements, and really I want to allow everyone a chance to get the floor a little bit today as we plan for our February 27th lobby day meeting. But the first thing I want to talk about is, if you missed it, Bill Brennan, who is on the call, gave an incredible discussion and presentation on the Embark psychedelic assisted therapy training model, which is available open source on the website. And Bill, if you want to chime in, I don't recall the website right now, but I posted the link on our YouTube channel, and I highly recommend you take a minute to watch that, because it has a lot of great information. And Bill, where is the Embark button?
I'll put the links in the chat. Thanks for giving me the opportunity, Avery.
Great. Yeah, no, thank you. And so what I want to focus mostly on today is that upcoming lobby day on February 27th. And we'll have more about that in a few minutes. I did see Nick is on from Assemblymember Rosenthal's team, and Will from Pat Burke's team. So I would love to give you two a few minutes too to kind of talk about the bills that you are specifically focusing on. And I know I have a list here of the 8 bills that are currently proposed in the Assembly and Senate that all refer to Schedule I substances and changing the way that we handle them. So we'll get to that in a minute. And then Steve, you're on from Reconsider, and super excited about talking about the February 26th screening for what are we calling the event? You're muted.
Sorry, we don't have a title yet for the event, but the title for the series is Stories of Transformation.
Stories of Transformation. Yeah. Okay. So for those of you who are not familiar with Reconsider, I mean, Steve, I mean, if you want to, if you don't feel put on the spot, I would love to give you the floor for a minute to talk about what you've done and what we're going to accomplish on the 26th.
Sure, happy to. Our work for the last decade has been focused on consciousness and social justice. We both make films and create workshops. For the past 3 years, we have been stewards of a farm in the Hudson Valley, which has become a convening space for visionary leaders in the transformational medicine space. So we bring veterans, first responders. Joe has been here, frontline healthcare workers, addiction and recovery specialists. We just did a convening for journalists and documentary filmmakers, really understanding both the mental health challenges within the communities and what's needed to create a foundation for the emergence of these medicines. As part of our work, we also were executive producers on a film called Fantastic Fungi that we did a lot of work in bringing out and finishing, and I've spent a couple of years running around with that. More recently, we created a series called Stories of Transformation, which are short films that are focused on very accessible people, again, veterans and first responders and nurses and others who have benefited from these medicines, in an effort to destigmatize the psychedelic and plant medicines, and also to educate people. And our most recent two films, one of them is on somebody who's here tonight and who many of you know already, is Joe McKay. Joe was gracious enough to spend a fair amount of time with us, and we have an 18-minute film that we're really excited to release, and we've been working on two premieres for it. One is New York City, and the other one was the idea of doing something up in the Capital Region. And when Avery mentioned February 27th, we talked this morning about the idea of doing something on February 26th, which again, we just started to sketch out, so it'd be great to talk with everybody. But the general idea was to bring in whatever lawmakers and staff members and others that would want to come, and also to feature three particular films. One would be Joe's. The second would be a film on Ethan Abend, who is a New York City policeman who's benefited from psilocybin. And the third would be a woman veteran, a woman named Sam Wan, who also has a very compelling story. So we'd have a veteran, a fireman, and a policeman.
Yeah, and last year during our lobby week, the Reconsider group allowed us to showcase the videos that they had produced up to that point, and they were really effective. I did see people stopping and watching and taking notes, so really excited for.
And we're more than happy to do that again, and I know that these films are being used in state legislatures around the country, so with very good response. So happy to have them used in any way that you guys would like.
Yeah, fantastic. And hopefully we can get that TV back again. Is that?
Yeah, we can.
Cool. So Nick, if you wanna, can I put you on the spot quick and have you talk a little bit about, I know Linda's bill is essentially a copy paste of what she's presented before. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we, Assemblymember Rosenthal first put in just a psilocybin only bill back in 2020. And we've been meeting with plenty of advocates here in New York and around the country, and we've landed on language now, which is now bill number A114. And that would legalize the adult possession and use of naturally occurring psychedelics. So it's the same version as what we had last year. We haven't made any changes, but of course we've been adding on new assembly sponsors on the bill. And so we are hoping this year we can get the bill moving out of committee, because we have built a lot of support. I know our lobby day last year up in Albany, it was great to have many of you on the call today there down in the well, educating different members and staff about what the bills do and exactly what this whole campaign is about. So looking forward to next month's lobby day as well.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, it's Assemblymember Rosenthal's office that allowed us to schedule this day at the Capitol. So we really appreciate your efforts in coordinating that.
Yeah, I remember
Absolutely.
last year we were struggling to get together a fact sheet about the bills, and I'm wondering if your office has one, or if we ought to revisit what we did last year and make sure that we all like it before we make copies of it.
Yeah, because I think what happened was Assemblymember Burke's office brought one down that was only.
Yeah, we want to make sure we have fact sheets for all the
representation.
bills. Yeah,
Yeah.
so do you have one or do you need our help in developing one?
We have one from last year. I can look at it and make sure that everything's still up to date, and maybe we'll update it a little bit with any news that's happened over the last year. And I can send that over to you.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure.
Great. And Will, if you don't mind, if you want to, I know that there's a brand new bill, and you and I kind of touched base a little bit earlier today. If you want to tell everybody about the exciting news in Assemblymember Burke's office.
You got it. Well, again, hello everybody. I'm Will. I'm the legislative director for Assemblyman Pat Burke. He represents part of South Buffalo. Yeah, we're really excited about what we're doing in the psilocybin space. Similar to Assemblywoman Rosenthal, we have a bill A3581 that would legalize psilocybin assisted therapy for medicinal use. It's a little bit different. It doesn't not as far reaching as Assemblywoman Rosenthal's, but it is out of committee. We have a Senate same as working with Senator Natalia Fernandez's office. She's great. She introduced the same bill in the Senate, and we currently have over 20 co-sponsors in the Assembly. So this bill has some momentum, and we're looking forward to it. If you look, since I know you guys are obviously very well researched in this field, if you look in the legislative history of it, we did recently amend A3581, but the only thing that's changed was that we have a list of potential facilitators stating, who is allowed to administer psilocybin therapy. And it's people like clinicians, psychoanalysts, et cetera, et cetera. The only change we made was that we added psychologists under that definition. So if you look at the amendment history, that's the only real amendment we have. And then for the new bill that we have that I'm going to talk about in a second, we're probably going to amend that as well to add psychologists in there as well. So if you see the bill get amended, that's why. They were really excited about A3581. We think that was a seriously good chance of hopefully getting past this session. So looking forward to that. And then the new bill, which Avery was alluding to and which we spoke about over the phone briefly, is A8349. This is a companion bill to A3581. It would essentially establish a pilot program in the state. It would allow the state to pay for 10,000 veterans, first responders, or people suffering from clusterbuster headaches to be administered psilocybin therapy. Because one of the things that we've learned, especially talking with people from the American Legion and other veterans groups, is that we'll tell them about psilocybin therapy and they'll be very excited about it. It's a new way to help people with post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, a lot of these other combat-related mental health issues. But then the immediate next question is, what's the cost? Like, will I be able to afford this once it actually is legal? Which, there are problems involving insurance and a lot of other issues, which often can be dealt with the federal level. But we want to do this pilot program bill because if we allow 10,000, veterans or first responders or people with clusterbuster headaches to be administered psilocybin therapy, then they can go back to their respective organizations or groups and say, hey, this is a genuinely good form of therapy. Excuse me. This is a genuinely good form of therapy that, we should be supporting and can become more widespread to help people who genuinely need it. Because, Pat has been a big supporter of psilocybin for a while now. And at the end of the day, it partially is out of the fact that, it should be legal and it should be, it should be open to people. But at the end of the day, the issue is the fact that it should be legal to help people and help people through, post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, etc. So we're really excited about it. And if you have any questions, I'll drop me an email in the chat and feel free to reach me. Thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you, Will. And you too, if you could email kind of like the fact sheet thing that Corinne mentioned so that we can put all of the information together. And I know last year, Senator Fernandez's office printed a really nice poster that had her picture and Assemblymember Rosenthal and Assemblymember Burke's and the three bills, the one in the 3581 and the 114 and whatever the number is for the Senate number on there. And I don't know.
I think we'd have to reach out to Senator Fernandez's office and we can do that. But I think, just so you all know, one of the ideas that I had is we ought to get Assemblymember Paulin to also co-sponsor. So if we could get a poster with all four of those lawmakers, do you think that Assemblymember Burke or Rosenthal would have any objection to that?
Objection to Assemblywoman Paulin.
Having the event sponsored also by Assemblymember Paulin as the Health Committee chair.
I don't foresee that being an issue at all. He's been in Albany the past 2 days. Session just started January 3rd. But I'll be speaking to him tomorrow, and I can bring that up. I doubt it would be an issue. And we're looking forward to the lobbying day as well on the 27th. So yeah, I don't foresee that being a problem at all. So
Nick, what do you think? Is that okay with you since you're the one that secured the space for us?
Yeah, I can talk to the assembly member and see. I think that should be fine, and she has a good relationship with the chair, so we can also help facilitate that conversation.
And for the 26th, the screening, we wanted to get lawmaker representatives there as well. And I know we had talked already. So Nick, if you want to mention that to Assemblymember Rosenthal to see if she would be interested in attending and perhaps speaking, if we could, generate a panel. I don't see Mike on there, and Corinne, I don't know if I forwarded it to you, but I did get a response back from the executive director of the Egg, and she put me in touch with their scheduling person. And basically, we're just checking to make sure that evening is free. So it is very likely that the Egg will be the venue that we'll have access to. And so to the Swire Theater, for those of you who are familiar, is the smaller one downstairs. But we'll be able to have a panel. There's a nice stage, a capability of projection. So we'll be able to have the screening, and it'll be a really nice environment. And I reached out to someone when I didn't know what was going to happen with the venue. Not that we're confirmed with the Egg, but the Linda is the WAMC venue on Central. And my contact there also was like, well, if it's something that's going to involve lawmakers, it's very likely that the WAMC radio station would want to be involved. And so I'm thinking, even if we don't end up at the Linda, we still invite the WAMC folks to have a media presence there, as well as any other media that we may maybe think of. So we could do two. Oh, that's Ask Steve. We could do two screenings, she said.
One for the public, one for all.
Oh.
Just an idea. I mean, if that's the hook to get WAMC involved, they should be interested. It's a sexy enough topic. They should be interested no matter where it's held. So
yeah, I think so. And obviously there's a lot of movement and interest in this, and I would love to be able to expose it to as many people as possible. But I think even if we had the Swire, I mean, there's enough to say, have the public come.
Yeah.
We're very open. I mean, I would think that the positive for a place like the Egg would be that they've got the capacity.
Right. Yeah. And if we do take reservations, and it would be great if we exceeded that 450 number and had to move it into the larger theater. I mean, looking at their calendar, there was nothing. So, unless there's a internal other event, because they do things that are not publicly posted. So, I'm waiting on a response from that scheduling person.
And we're open to doing, if we wanted to do two screenings or whatever, but I do think that getting everybody into the same one and having a lot of energy in the room could be great.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
Linda has pretty good capacity also, and has a really good stage and audio visual capabilities and recording. So that as a fallback, that wouldn't be a bad place at all.
Sounds great.
Right. And as a less likely to happen option, I have a friend that manages the Palace, and I also reached out to him. And I mean, that's a much bigger venue. I think that holds 1,500 or more. But there's nothing on their calendar that evening either. And so, depending on how much interest we can generate, and if they're amenable to the idea too, is we have some options. So it's certainly going to happen. It's just a matter of where and how many people we can invite.
I don't want to promise it because I'm not sure of the date, but if it was something that we thought what we really wanted to try to drive as many people to as possible, and it was a venue that had the ability to project Zoom, we could also possibly get Paul Stamets to join the conversation and share a few words with the audience.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, both of them should have the capacity to do that, don't you think?
I would think so.
Yeah, any of those venues would, absolutely, yeah.
If we wanted to make like a whole, even more of a program around it.
Yeah, yeah, sure. And I mean, and honestly, a name like that, may be able to get more lawmakers to commit to it because, it's a flashier interest, with history to it. And Aaron Ganuth didn't join the call, and I'm going to speak on his behalf, but Doug or Joe, who was the Hamilton that we talked about?
So Hamilton Morris. He's not I wasn't aware that he was a comedian. He's a scientist, and I think he's yeah. I'm not 100% sure. Who knows? Maybe he does comedy, but it's Hamilton Morris. Is his name. He's pretty popular, and he has a lot of media content about psychedelics.
So he did a program on Vice and
on Vice, yeah, a program on Vice.
He's funny, but I don't know if he's a comedian, but he is a little humorous in some of his videos. So and they're very high quality, well done, usually short little videos.
But Aaron is really close with him, and he thinks that he might be interested in playing host for a screening, either up in Albany or down in the city, if that's someone that would be of interest to you guys as a star quality enough person to generate some attention.
He's very bright. He's funny. He's very tongue in cheek, and he's really smart.
Cool. Okay, well, that's February 26th. The other thing I wanted to go over before we jump into the 27th is just some of the other bills that are in the legislative session this year, that I think are new, are brand new bills. So I'm just gonna read the numbers because
Do they all start out with S or A? I'm gonna jump on the website.
There's two more A's. So there's a A2355, and I'm not familiar with Vanel.
Clyde Vanel, yeah.
Clyde.
What's the number again?
A2355. And this would make the possession of certain amounts of controlled substance a violation and no longer a Class A misdemeanor. So, I'm not sure which substances. It doesn't really say in here. I didn't get a chance to look at the bill myself. And then there's A3434, and that's from Meeks.
Yeah. The other one was introduced last year.
Oh, okay. And this one would eliminate criminal and civil penalties for possession of controlled substances, establishes the Drug Decriminalization Task Force to develop recommendation for reforming state laws, regulations, and practices so that they align with the stated goal of treating substance use disorder as a disease rather than a criminal behavior. So
9 co-sponsors was introduced last year.
Okay, yeah, fantastic. And I as much as we right now as a group are focused primarily on psilocybin and we mention other psychedelics, I think it would be, useful to also have these other bills on the table at the lobby day, just to say, there is interest in greater reform, and this is what we think. And then the Senate bills are the S2340, which is Rivera. Oh, and that looks like it's the same as for the Meeks. And then there's S3520 and S4440, which are the two Fernandez. Oh no, so there's 3 Fernandez bills. She has a really, I'm not going to read all of this, but S4440, if anyone else is in the legislative system looking up the bills right now, looks like a facilitate broad scale information sharing and data standardization among state and local entities to support the state drug control efforts, and a bunch of other stuff. So it would be basically creating
a state director of drug policy.
A state director of drug policy. Wow. So that's really exciting news.
I don't know if somebody could summarize this at all quickly, but for those of us who are less familiar with the legislative paradigm in New York, I'm a transplant from Massachusetts. How does a from a bill getting offered in committee through a bill getting passed, what is the process in the state, or is that much too convoluted to try to summarize in a short amount of time?
I can kind of speak to it a little bit. It is more complicated than it should be. But typically what goes on is that it's true though. It's way too complicated. They gotta make it a lot more simple. So you introduce a bill. Then once you introduce a bill, you kind of have to add some. First, you have to get momentum behind it. So you have to, usually getting one co-sponsor is enough just to kind of show to, committees or whatever that this is just a one-off thing that other people are in agreement with it beyond just the person initially initiating it. Then the next thing you want to do is that you need support on the committee that your bill is going to be assigned to. So 83581 is part of the health committee because it deals with amending the health law. So once it's in the health committee, you have to get the chairman or chairwoman of the committee to support the bill because they're responsible for setting the agenda, making sure which bills go into the committee. I think I have to get a majority of the committee to support it, which is often easier said than done. And then once it goes through committee, then it can be sent to the floor. And once it gets to the floor, then usually at the whim of the speaker and a lot of other machinations that are too complicated for me to really understand. But usually the speaker agrees with it, then it gets sent to the assembly floor. And then if the majority of the assembly agrees with it, it then passes the assembly. Same thing happens in the Senate. Throughout all of this going on, you also have to deal with these individuals called program and counsel. They are basically the assembly and Senate attorneys that, they set certain rules that your bill has to kind of fall in line with to make sure that it's constitutional and won't be challenged in court later. Because, they have a legitimate purpose in the sense that, they don't want to have a bill pass the assembly, pass the Senate, get signed by the governor, and then it just gets overturned later after a long legal battle after it's already signed. So I hope that makes some sense. Get through committee, gets to the floor, and all the while just deal with the attorneys that kind of help guide you throughout the way to kind of make sure that it will hold up in court if it ever gets challenged. But that's why it often takes a very long amount of time to get stuff passed.
And one of the main differences between like Massachusetts or California or Colorado and some of these other states in New York is that there are no citizen referendum type bills in New York. So all bills, all that become law have to go through the legislative process. So there isn't we need 10,000 signatures or whatever it is, and then it can be on there.
The other thing I'll add is that the New York State Legislature considers more than 30,000 bills every single session. And so the number of bills that actually get through and pass both chambers and get sent to the governor is infinitesimally small compared to that number. So many bills take, 4 or 5 years, a decade to pass. So yeah, it's a lot of work.
Well, that's the compassion and choices has been 10 years.
We're going on 9 years this year.
Nine. And yeah, so it is convoluted and it's complicated, but as Will said, it's if you have the right support, you can ensure that the bill gets called to a vote. But if that, people can support it, and if the the committee folks, say, well, this is not gonna fly constitutionally, then it will never get called to a vote, even if you've generated enough interest. So that's another hitch that often has to get overcome.
And one thing I'll add as well is that's why coalition building is so important, because if you get enough backing behind a bill or initiative, being completely honest, sometimes program and council, again, they deal with so many bills that they're extremely conservative. I'm not saying that necessarily a bad way, just in the sense that from their perspective, it's a lot easier to, deter bills, and it's a lot better to be risk averse from their perspective because, even if one bill gets through and gets challenged in court and there's a long legal battle, then from their perspective, they kind of screwed up on their jobs. So from their perspective, it's usually risk averse, but if you have the momentum and you have that coalition behind it and you keep pushing and you keep bringing it up to their attention, it's a lot easier to kind of, deal with that risk and ultimately get it passed. So
That's a hell of a gamut.
I just wanted to add too that there's also often multiple stops in the committee process. So once it comes out of health, if it has fiscal implications, it's going to the Ways and Means Committee. If there are criminal penalties or removing criminal penalties, it would go to code. So it's not just health, but you do that same battle for a couple of committees normally.
Yeah, so there's a lot of hoops. Well, thank you, Will and Nick and Corinne for that brief rundown and how New York's law system works. And now I just want to, well, actually, before we focus on February 27th, two other things. We had talked the last few meetings about an email that could be copied and pasted and sent to all legislators. And I think we really should get that nailed down. And it's done, and we've.
I don't think I got any comments, so we should send it back out again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I let's start sending this to legislators and publicizing it and say, like, here's this thing. And I know our website is unfortunately down, but if we could, Taylor put up a work in progress website. Thank you so much, Taylor, who's on the call here. And if we could find some way that we could direct people to this letter online that then could just be, hey, copy paste this into an email so people all across the state can send it to their individual legislators, because that was one of the most repeated responses we got last year in talking to legislators is, I haven't heard from my constituents on this issue. And so if we can, I know in our area, I'm in Rensselaer County, in Troy, we have everyone in this area already supports the bill. So if you're in the John McDonald, Scott Bendet, I don't think Pat Fahey.
I don't think Pat Fahey's on yet.
No, and I did talk to Phil Steck, and Phil Steck said that he would not co-sponsor it, but if it comes to a vote, he would vote for it. So our area is pretty well covered.
Well, McDonald isn't on the Rosenthal bill.
Oh, McDonald is not on the Rosenthal bill. Nick, we got to do something about that. Yeah. Good point. Okay, well, I have a meeting scheduled with him on something unrelated. Maybe I can sneak that in on next week.
He told me he wanted to know what you were meeting about. He didn't know.
Oh, I sent them the information.
I'll tell you why he was confused.
Okay. Okay. So where was I? Oh yeah. So Taylor, is that something that's possible with the temporary thing that you created, do you think?
For sure. Whatever you need to put on there, just let me know. Can
Awesome.
definitely do that.
Fantastic. And then, yeah, the talking points cheat sheet. Did anybody come up with ways to discuss psychedelics with their family? And you don't have to tell me, but I want to keep mentioning that so it's turning in your gears. And if you have my email, or direct message me somehow, the Instagram, and that's on me. I haven't started putting that together yet. I do want to put that together. Okay, so the meet for February 27th. Taylor is working on some graphics, and we have confirmed so far Darkhai Rafua is returning. Nymha, Collar City Mushrooms, Cluster Busters. We're going to have a medical professionals for psilocybin access, unless we come up with a sexier name. And then we're really trying to gather as many veteran and first responder groups as possible. I know we're going to have some representation between, Stephen, you have your group that you are connected with, and Aaron Ganuth is reaching out to the people at LEAP, the law enforcement against whatever the P is, prohibition. And then
There's one person in particular you should reach out to. There's Brendan Cox,
Yeah.
who's the former Albany police chief.
yeah, that's him. Yep.
And he's been to the first responders convening, to two of them here at the farm.
Great, thank you.
For the new people, they don't know.
Sure.
So for those of you who weren't with us last year for the lobby day, basically what we did is we reserved a hallway in a very heavily traversed area of the Capitol where lawmakers walk from their offices to the legislative session. And we'll have the ability to put between 10 or 12 6-foot tables there, and each group that sponsors a table would show up. It's different this year because we only have one day as opposed to the full week last year. But generally speaking, the day will start between 9 and 10 a.m. and last until, lawmakers generally stay, but I don't know what kind of, I guess I'm thinking they'll probably be around until 5 or 6 that night. I see Nick shaking his head. Yes, so I think that's probably what it's gonna look like. So if we could have people staffing the table during that time, providing information, if you have like swag or goodies to give out, that always draws lawmakers over to the table. And then just being prepared to talk to lawmakers about your organization, about the bills that we support. And then we'll also probably try to coordinate an information packet drop where a number of us will walk through the building and leave information in legislators' offices and encourage them to come down and interact with us. So that's what it'll look like. And we really were able to talk to a lot of lawmakers last year. It was a busy time of the year. It will be again. Tuesday is a lobby day. So not only will there be a lot of lawmakers, there'll be a lot of other New Yorkers there on other issues. So having generalized information about plant medicine and psilocybin in particular will be really important. So does anybody have any questions about what the day is going to look like? We might also do specific legislative meetings as well. Didn't we do some of those last year?
We did, yeah. Mike's not on the call, but Mike Avella is our lobbyist connection, and he led Joe, Jana, and I around multiple times and into specific offices, and we hand delivered some Dr. Bronner's magic chocolate, which does not have psilocybin in it. That's just what they call it. And the state police were very curious, and they took some. And then their soap bottles. And Aaron has already filled out the form to get that again. And so hopefully we'll have Dr. Bronner's chocolate and soap again. And then, I need the total number of lawmakers because Aaron wanted to know how much he should put in.
214 altogether with the governor's office.
Okay. Great. And then, so some people kind of went to individual offices and either walked in and said hi to the legislative director or the secretary or whoever was there. Occasionally, the assembly person or senator was also in the office, and we were able to just say, hey, this is this is what we're doing. Here's some information. Thanks for talking, blah, blah, blah. Joe occasionally would launch into his whole heart-wrenching story and get people to cry in his shoulder and hug him and say, of course, I'm going to vote for the bill. And then, so that was a really critical thing. And then many of us who manned the well got really good at chasing lawmakers down the hallway and talking to them as they ran from space to space without wanting to stop and talk to anybody. So that is another, bring comfortable shoes and be prepared to stand on because it is marble walls, marble floors. I don't know if it's marble ceiling, but it seems like it, but it's not the friendliest surface to stand on for 8 to 10 hours. And so bring comfortable shoes and, that be prepared to get pretty mobile, because I started a conversation with more than one lawmaker and ended up all the way at the Capitol by the time we finished up, and then had to run all the way back. Some of the other groups that are just possibles is the Free Temple, which Taylor is here as a representative from them, and then the Western Psychedelic Society of Western New York and Students for Sensible Drug Policy. I think you guys all, Taylor, you were pretty much those three organizations. Is that correct?
So Brittany is from Sanctuary Project and Psychedelic Society of Western New York, and she, as far as I know, is able to come.
Okay.
I'm still trying to work out the schedule, but I reached out to SSDP, so hopefully either way I'll be able to hook up with some people to bring some stuff, and I'm hoping I'll be there myself too.
Great. And Douglas, you, as a one who is gathering people to advocate on Long Island, do you have any representatives group that you can send and man a table for those hours, or?
Well, I mean, we just started up and we only have officially like 4 members, and then like unofficially there's maybe another 4 or 5 more that haven't signed up online yet for the meetup group. But my issue is that I'm both a stay at home dad, taking care of the kids, as well as doing work at the same time, and this and a bunch of other things. So my ability to organize something for the upcoming day is probably quite limited, I would say.
Okay. Yeah. I think one of the things that I do want to, maybe we could get a map and kind of put like pins on where people have spoken out, so that even if you're not there in person, we can still, have a pin on the map to say like there's, this is where all these people are, gathering and
I really like
Definitely put my pin on the map, in Long Island, right pretty much in the middle on the North Shore, by the border of Nassau and Suffolk is where I live, in Green Lawn. So right in the middle of Long Island, you can put a pin and just say Doug Hoppy, and I guess the Long Island Psychoactive Society, if you want to.
I like that. Yeah. And we have a couple lawyers on the call right now. I see Noah and Robert. I know one of the things that we talked about yesterday during our legislative committee meeting is having like a law table, or something. It hasn't really, concretized what we're going to do with it, but I would love to have, some kind of representation or something with that. And I know, we have lots of doctors and nurses and hospice care folks, that we hope to have that medical professional table. So, I think having professional groups or something would be interesting too.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we could, possibly have like, New York City Bar Association, psychedelic law subcommittee, table there, available to discuss, legal aspects of, federal preemption and things like that, and how other states are kind of, existing in this strange, cognitively dissonant space. And, I'd be happy to participate. I don't know about maybe Noah too. I don't know. We're all busy people, it's tough.
Yeah, Noah, did.
Yes. So, Robert, I think that's a major check with the Bar Association, because there's a lot of rules with the Bar Association. I mean, we're not even like formalized in a sense, the subcommittee. I mean, we're whatever. We should discuss that offline. I do think that if you wanted, there's a whole crew of psychedelic lawyers now in New York State. You should be in touch with them anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they'd be happy to like get FaceTime, even if they're not doing it in their own professional capacity. They might very well like to, show up. And so, I mean, that's a separate conversation if you want to talk. I mean, that's my inclination. Like the Bar Association, I mean, be the most fun thing possible in the entire world to do would be to hang out in the Capitol and talk about psychedelics. But that's the way that the format I think would be better to private sector people, unless you have other, well, yeah, I mean, because the social advocacy organizations want to get their own brand out. But bringing in lawyers is you'll kick the door open, basically.
Yeah, if you have a contact, if you could send an email or connecting email so that we could say, hey, there's, we have some tables. We would love to have people, occupy them.
And maybe you can shake them down for some money and they'll sponsor the buses.
Yeah. So I mean, seriously, maybe like, I don't know, reach out to maybe like a Merge or something, and maybe they will
Merge, Harris Bricken has an office in the city.
Yeah.
I think Epstein Becker, somebody's put their name down on Entheogenics. So we got Merge. Adriana might have money to put up for Planned Medicine Law Group. Who else? Vicente is here. I'm sure Vicente
there's
already putting their brand on psychedelics. A whole
there's
bunch
plenty of lawyers in New York, always in every niche now.
Yeah. No, it's here. Entheogen psychedelic law practice is a thing now in the city. I mean, at a minimum, you have the ketamine places for a legal market, but this would be like the happy hunting grounds when this legislation pass. Lawyers are gonna have a total field day, criminal and civil side.
And I don't know if I mentioned it, but I saw Kevin pop up. Did I say Cluster Busters? Cluster Busters is going to have a table with the banner and all that again too, right?
Yes.
Fantastic. Cool. Kevin, are you going to be able to make it this time?
I don't know. TBD. I hope so. For those who don't know, I'm based on the West Coast, so it's a bit of a trip to get out there, but I hope to be able to make it.
Cool. So yeah, those were all the things that I had specifically down. I mean, did anyone have any other brainstorming things that any table ideas that anyone else has come up with? Will, Nick, is anything specific you would want to see as a way to support your efforts?
I could definitely say from our office, just as many veterans or first responders groups as possible. That's been our priority, trying to link up with those groups. So it is definitely kind of difficult, I found, linking up with them and connecting with them. But yeah, veterans, first responders, those are two big things.
I'm also interested, just shifting away from the lobby day for a minute, about who this group would like to hear from as our next guest speaker. Oh,
well, no, that was what I was going to do that at the end, but yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was thinking of veteran, and I know I was thinking like Jesse Gould, if we could connect with him or someone else, or maybe even Brendan Cox, who is the former police chief of Albany.
That would be great. We should invite him. Yeah.
Does anyone else have any other ideas, guest speaker ideas?
Or topics that you want to hear more about, because we can find people.
I just wanted to let you know I have sort of a friendly acquaintance. He's sort of quite famous in the cannabis world because he did the lawsuit against the cord licenses. But his name is Carmine Fiore. He's from Long Island in Levittown, and he's a veteran and a first responder both. So if anyone has any like materials that they want to send, if they could email it to me or somehow get it to me, I'll forward them over to him. And he has a nice big network of friends who are veterans and first responders that he could, maybe get behind some of these things we're talking about regarding vets and first responders. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Douglas. That'd be amazing. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that was everything that I wanted to cover. I'm pretty psyched. I know last year as we led up to the lobby week, we had specific meetings with those folks who were planning on occupying tables. So that's probably something we'll do maybe the week before the 27th. But our next meeting is scheduled for February 13th, which is the second Tuesday. And we don't have a guest speaker scheduled, but maybe we can, get someone.
I just found an email correspondence with Brendan Cox in my LinkedIn. So it was when we were first forming Nymha.
Oh,
So maybe we should just reach out.
yeah. So that would be fantastic. And I think he is still in the area. So
He is.
yeah,
He's in Troy, I believe.
great.
Yeah, and he's a great guy and a very powerful speaker. He's terrific.
Fantastic. And especially if we could, I would love to have a rousing speaker the week before or the 2 weeks before the lobby day to maybe generate even more interest. And if it's something where we can get veterans and first responders in a larger way to come to that so that we can say now, let's make a showing at the Capitol, and I think that would be a good way to gather that. The other thing that I think is going to help generate some interest is the Steve and Sean Gallagher from Reconsider. Sean Gallagher is actually a Capital Region resident, and he's going to come on February 13th to our next meeting and take some footage of the meeting happening. So hopefully there's no inclement weather and we have a better in-person showing, because if we can, showcase like, and here's a meeting at College City Mushrooms with, for psilocybin advocacy, or however we're going to phrase it. And then maybe interview a couple people so we can have a little, couple minute soundbite thing that we can share. And then, specifically talk about rallying at the Capitol. And that would be a phenomenal asset to have created. And I saw a couple comments. Noah, is there any possibility of chartering buses from New York City? Well, if we can, there is a lot of interest down there. If we can get some, funds, I don't know what a bus costs to come up, but that would be really cool. $2,000. All right, let's find a sponsor.
That was what DPA did. DPA obviously has got lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of money, but for Start Smart, they had buses. I don't know how much DPA was covering because there were a lot of other organizations, but they had buses from Rochester and New York, and I don't know where else. But no, you know what? That's not quite accurate. I think the buses that came in from Rochester were Rochester normal. But yeah, the horde of foot soldiers is down here in New York City, at least population wise. You could all these build up events, like you're going to do this showing in February, right before anything that week is a kickoff lead in, and you climax with a trip up to New York on lobby day. So look, I'm not volunteering to organize. I'm just saying it's all doable. But DPA kind of owns the Capitol, I think, in terms of drug policy stuff, but at least they've bought in now because Cassandra spoke in Denver, so presumably they won't fight you on that. But depending on how you want to interact with them, they might kick in some money. But I would definitely shake down the lawyers, and Avery, I'll make the intro. Robert, you and I should consult, and then we should, I'm sure they'd be happy to get their brand out there. They should be able to come up with some.
Yeah, and especially if they're interested in, billing themselves as entheogenic lawyers. And
that's what they're doing.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah, and so Stephen, you and I will stay in touch about where the 26th is going to land and who else we can talk to legislative wise about being involved. And would there be interest in having that Hamilton Morris be involved at this event, or you want to save that for something else?
I think I would save it for this one because I feel like, I mean, we can talk more about it, but I feel like we've got some other good options and yeah, we can talk more about it, but
Cool.
I would
Okay.
hold off at the moment, I think.
Yeah. Great. Well, if does anyone else have any other news, comments, concerns, or groundbreaking revelations?
I just wanted to say about Hamilton that he is actually a very gifted chemist. And one of his videos, he actually went to Mexico to legally make DMT. And it was sort of hilarious because of the faces he was making while he was doing it all. But I think I've never met him personally, but I'm a big fan of his online. And I think anything we could do with him would probably have an amazing positive impact. That's my 2 cents.
May I respond to that?
Yeah.
So my understanding from afar, from what little I'm able to keep monitoring stuff in the psychedelic space, is that he has an affiliation with Compass now, a mega money pharma profile, which has the potential, the culture, the political culture down here is sensitive. So I think that's, you got to think about the sociology of the movement and how different brands intersect with that, especially in New York City.
That was one of my concerns as well, just and nothing against him, but is much more of a psychopharmacological approach and at the moment more corporate oriented than natural medicine.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean his programming too. You watch it, so it's fascinating. He's amazing to listen to.
Totally.
But it's definitely it's all very, it's very much so you're gonna get like a 75% of it's going to be a discussion on like organic chemistry.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But again, obviously some very positive things as well. So.
Yeah. He's a great advocate for cognitive liberty too.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Well, if no one else has anything to add, then I think that's it for now. Yeah, thank you all for joining, and I really appreciate your presence and ideas. And I know that we've made a lot of movement, and we're gonna keep rolling. So this is exciting.
Thanks for organizing. It's lovely to see.
Yeah.
Thanks for all you guys do.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Good night.
Good night.
Night.